You know what RT&J is?
The new PB&J?
Yes. Thank you. RT&J. We the new PB&J. We dropped that classic today. We did the tablet of acid.
Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather and share music with each other and see what the other guys think. Kind of like a good book club for music, as it were. I'm PETEY Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me is my team, my squad. We've got Brett.
It's your one-way ticket to midnight.
Yes.
Call it Record Breakers.
Yes. We've got Drew.
What?
And we've got Patrick.
Word up.
Yes.
That's a callback to pre-show the show.
Yes. We're here to talk about music, gathered around to talk about an album, talk about a really cool album, provided to us by Drew. Drew, what do you got for us this week?
Well, the one I brought is an album that I sort of have been meaning to listen to for a while, but didn't want to. Mostly because I was like, I know it's going to be political, and I just don't. I've had enough of that for a while, so like I was like, I put it off, and finally I listened to it, and it was great, and I wanted an excuse to listen to it more, so I decided to bring on Run the Jewels 3.
Mm-hmm. Very cool, very interesting, very cool, very hip-hop album. But let's talk about some of the expectations. Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Because I don't quite live under a rock, I was at least aware of Run the Jewels. And I knew it was Killer Mike and some dude, and they made rap music. But amazingly enough, I had never really listened to them because I still mostly live under a rock. And new music, sometimes it is difficult to find its way into my rotation. So I was ready for a new experience, but only knowing that like I'm getting a rap record here. That was all I had.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Well, on the recommendations from one Dave Lang of C3PO of Iron Galaxies, I listened to some of the previous Run the Jewels, but like just casual listen, so I was fairly uninformed. Other than some of the songs on this album are they're ubiquitous, they're out there, you hear them in the wild, so. I kind of knew some of what I was going to get, but I was looking forward to getting around to finally listening to it.
Yeah, I had some context just because I know who Killer Mike is, and I've heard the name LP before, namely on a certain soundtrack for a certain skating video game franchise.
720.
Specifically, the Underground
Thrasher.
one.
He was really big on Thrasher. He helped put that down.
Skate or Die. Yeah.
Skate or Die.
Skitchin.
Street Skater.
Can we get
into this?
The new gritty reboot of Skate or Die?
Street Skater.
Please.
I'd rather have the gritty reboot of Skitchin.
Yes.
But yeah, Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, the thing to me about Run the Jewels in general is the blend of the two. That to me is really what's great. LP and Killer Mike, before they started making these albums, collaborated before. LP was a producer of some great like alternative hip hop sort of things. If everyone knows Aesop Rock, and but also like Cage and others. But the thing with Run the Jewels is you get LP's like producing touch in a lot of it, but you also get not only him rapping, but him and Killer Mike, their flow together really works really well. I think both of their styles of delivery are just better together because they can work in and out of each other in really, really cool ways. Not only that, but with it, you get two very distinct voices for the subject matter that they deal in. Like I said, this does not shy away from politics. I mean, Killer Mike spent some time campaigning for a certain presidential candidate at one point, so he's not one to shy away from it. LP neither, and they, being a black man and a white man, have very different like backgrounds, but can speak on the same things politically in a very, very cool way, in my opinion. And you get all of that together with this beat that I think is the overall music is part of what makes Run the Jewels, in my opinion. If you make something that can sort of blend a lot of things and can be any of these songs, in my opinion, the music, the beat that is made and produced could be put into any sort of on any sort of like hip hop radio station. It's something that is a very current sound in like rap and hip hop in some ways, and in some ways it's very different, which of course works, catches people's ears, but then you have them speaking on things that are important. You get that sort of storytelling that is really cool in poetry and rap and hip hop, in music in general. And because of that, because you have something that can reach a wider audience, you can speak to a wider audience than something that may be a little more narrow in focus. And I think that, to me, is really cool. You have things that can, like, you could bang a lot of these songs at like a hip hop club and it wouldn't sound super out of place. And yet at the same time, like, these are very like poignant issues that usually you don't think about, like people getting down at the club, like talking about like Black Lives Matter and like racial injustice and racism and how it plays an effect in today's culture. Really weird, but awesome.
Yeah, it's a very cool, interesting like album musically. Patrick, how would you describe this album musically?
The production work is real good. That is not to lessen Killer Mike and LP and their rapping abilities, but LP as a producer, that was kind of the thing I enjoyed most. It's the whole album is like actually mixed together where every track flows into the next and there is a transition, and clearly some thought was put in to link all of these together musically. The rapping it's sort of on the aggressive percussive side, which I do enjoy. There's on most of the record like a sort of an energy and a pace to everything. Like everything's kind of moving. There's kind of a speed to it, but it isn't, it isn't one of those. Relentless is probably a good word for it. It isn't a full on, we're going to get as many. Yeah, we're not getting as many syllables in as we can, but like it has like an energy and a sort of forward momentum that kind of drives its way through the record.
Mm-hmm. Brett, how would you describe this album musically?
I would decide this album by listening to I'm going to repeat a lot of things that have already been said. This is the production is very present. It's ever present and very heavy handed, and it works. It's lyrically, it's a very dense album as well. In multiple listens, there's plenty to dig into. Like the words per minute are pretty large. But there's a, like what was previously mentioned, there is an overall mood and a flow to this album that was pretty nice. It's a very Like there's no dips and low spots. There's really most of these tracks are the quality of what you would expect from a single. There's a lot of care that you can see. There's heavy use of like some retro style sampling and some really like old school sounding drum machine use. There's nothing in the songs. There's no like also ran song in the mix. The rhymes are all very well crafted, and the wordsmithing it's as good as I've heard in a long time. You can definitely see that people were putting a lot of work and effort into putting out a very quality product.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of quality in the production work, but like a lot of creativity and a lot of like fun. I think but definitely a lot of like purpose, like purpose, and like I said, relentless when it comes to like the delivery in the music, the delivery and the beats, the delivery of the raps. They're coming at you. They're coming for you, bro. And it comes off really well, and I think it's just a really cool, like it brings everything that I like about everything that like LP touches, and anything that Killer Mike touches as far as like alternative hip hop. And here's a key thing. Here's a trick. If you want to know if I like a hip hop artist, chances are if they've been on the Tony Hawk soundtrack, I probably like them.
All right.
Probably. There's more beyond those soundtracks, but that I like. But those are pretty much batting 1,000 right there on those. But yeah, let's talk about some of the key tracks. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks to zero in on?
Well, to me, I'm gonna skip the opening and go to Talk to Me first. This is 2.5 minutes that has a lot to say. When you want to talk about like a song that has a lot of words per minute, Talk to Me is up there. Like I said, Killer Mike got some things to get off his chest, and he does them here. It's also very much like it's that fight song. Like Talk to Me is a fight song. It is a pump your fist sort of thing there, and that I like it when punk music does it. I like it when hip hop music does it. It's a cool thing to do. Legend has it. The song became a single, in my opinion, for a reason. The wordplay in it, the like callback to like the end of like I think it's the first verse, he references Godfather, and then in the beginning of the third verse, he does it again, like just randomly, and it's like, okay, Killer Mike, he's pretty smart with words. And then if you want to talk about production at the end of Legend Has It, the way it drops out and goes into Dickatron is just great. It's something that like when I first was listening to this record and it like switched into the next song, I was like, oh wait, oh there's a new song. Okay, hold on. Like I have to like go back and rethink about what's happening. And then I'm gonna touch on El Mama because I have a feeling that Brett might also want to touch on El Mama. Because the weird synthiness of it, the way the music moves in that, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn. Maybe I'm taking a turn of phrase from one of our other hosts, but it has a sprungy feel to it that I feel this album is better because of. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
I'm going to do the Record Breakers thing because the first track, Down, is worth doing the Record Breakers thing for. This is like a really good example of why I enjoy the production on this record so much. The beat kind of has one bounce to it where the rapping kind of has another complementary one, and you get this really cool, layering of percussive elements in the song. It's got a good hook on it, which, rap songs are better with a good hook. And it's a good opening track. Call Ticketron. How about using a great sample from 80s television, everyone? This is, this song, it's got a great like sample-based hook. The music, again, that sort of momentum and relentlessness is here. And the rapping really, really, like, again, very forceful and aggressive, but like always flowing. And this song, like that's a song you bump in your car. I did that yesterday on the way home, and
I did that today.
In the nightmare that is Austin, Texas traffic. That song definitely made a few minutes of my drive slightly better. And then
definitely fun for when you got to go on a KFC run. Just pump some J. Pump your RT&J when you go into KFC.
Good to know. Good to know. Stay Gold. The production on this record was what ultimately won me over. The rapping is like, it's not my particular favorite, but it's very, very good. It's just sort of, a taste thing, but the production is so tight, so perfect, and like has a thing that is very much felt like its own and not the same as everything else. It had very much its own identity, but also not being afraid to use like was sort of brought up before, using old school synth and drum samples and using just literal samples of random things to build the song. This one's got like a cool like wobbly bass thing going on that I just adored.
Wobbly.
And like the percussion is, you've got this really slow snare and bass bit, but like the sort of hi-hat line tucked in there is like super fast. And it's that weird sort of momentum a lot of this record has, and this song really exemplifies it. Plus, it's just catchy as shit, and I am a sucker for a good catchy rap track once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, I'm gonna sort of bounce around a little bit. There, we can all repeat the same stuff. The production, there's some stuff. There's some some sproing that lives on this album. But the album starts off pretty strong, and when you get to Talk to Me, you can understand why they made that the lead single off the album. It's very unique, and as soon as you hear it, you know exactly what you're listening to and who is bringing it to you. And on an album where you can literally talk about every single track being a key track, this one does stand out. I thought Everybody Stay Calm was a pretty great track in the way that they had a really weird retro sounding key, like keyboard. And then like every now and then they'd bring in these strings, and it was mixed in a weird way that is kind of surreal. And then the way they close this album out, with a report to the shareholders / kill your masters. It was trippy. It had like some weird hand percussion thing going on. It went some places, and then Mr. Rage Against the Machine shows up.
I was gonna say, did anybody catch the Della Rocca on the track?
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's another voice that you hear, and you know exactly. Okay, that's what I'm listening to right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many good songs on this album. It's a really hard one to single particular tracks out, because like Drew was saying, like you don't sometimes know when one ends and one begins if you're not paying attention. It's kind of a weird flow.
Yeah, it's a weird flow. It's like it's unlike how we would say like you would because there are a couple examples of how you would be unable to pick out songs when something blends together and it's hard to remember anything, like a couple albums ago, and when all the songs are great and you're crippled by choice, but they all flow together so seamlessly that it's all cohesive, but there's so many memorable moments like this track, like this album. But yeah, I will share the love for. I was waiting to see if somebody would bring it up how this album closes with specifically the Kill Your Masters half of that closing track is just fantastic. Like it just has an attitude that I absolutely love, and like in your face attitude that's just fantastic. Like all the MCs involved kill it, including Mr. Della Rocca, and it closes the album in such a great way. Let's bring it back around the horn to some conclusive thoughts. Patrick, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
So this is one of those, like, I was aware of what it was, but I'd never really listened to it, and now I very much understand why Run the Jewels is so popular and why they are so liked. This is, some albums feel like a collection of songs and some albums feel like a complete thought, whether it's like a full on, concept or anything. This is not, but musically it is a very complete thought. Like, everything transitions in a meaningful way. The album, picks you up and puts you down, but mostly just keeps driving forward. The production is really, really, really good. And I don't know if LP's other work sounds like this production wise, but I'm certainly curious because, like, that was again what really, really sucked me in. I wasn't 100% in, and then the more you listen to the music side of it, the more you're like, this is kind of genius. Like, I feel like there's some thought to, like, I can put this album on at a party, hit play, and walk away, and it's never gonna, like, it flows and it transitions perfectly from one song to the next, and it really, you get kind of a nice complete experience.
Brett, how would you conclude this album?
I mean, this album good. It's not an album that I would have, like, put top of my list of things that I need to get around to if it weren't for the show. And that's a nice thing to not have to struggle to listen to an album over and over and over and try and find words to say, especially in a genre where normally I struggle to, pick out things that are, worth noting that aren't, blatant and in your face. It's there's a lot here that even if you're not into the hip hops, you can enjoy your time.
Yeah, I think this is just it has a lot of the pieces of things in hip hop that I love, like a lot of those connections to a bunch of the alternative hip hop artists that I've listened to and I've loved, and a bunch of the production work is exactly like kind of like it's the type of relentless, passionate, in your face, but passionate, in your face, high energy hip hop that I absolutely enjoy. It's that and the more like chill counterpart to alternative hip hop, but this is the high energy version, and it's just fantastic. And this is an album that is just such a great album, especially to like jam in your car, especially as a new driver. Even if it's only 15 minutes at a time, it is still fantastic. No matter what piece you're listening to. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album?
This is an album that, since I sat down and listened to the whole thing and really dug into it, I've been meaning to bring on. I had sort of put it off for a few weeks so that it wasn't like we were trying to do hip hop month again or something weird. And especially since Kendrick is also very lyrically dense and sort of heady in that respect. The thing about Run the Jewels to me is that Killer Mike and LP work great together. It's something that LP's production work and how he thinks of music in general, I think is really, really smart. I think Killer Mike in general is a really smart dude. Agree or disagree with him politically, he's a smart dude. He's coming at this from a very passion sort of thing. He has things to say, he has things he wants to do in music, and he does them. LP, like I said, has production credits a mile long and is worth looking into. It's something that when you have people looking to them being giving credit and giving shout outs to them that are well known in the industry and wanting to come in and play with them. Zach De La Rocha, if you look on the track, is not really credited. He's just there.
On Spotify, at least, yeah. He's only on Wikipedia, yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's the saxophone player on Thursday in the Danger Room, Kamasi Washington. Like, you have things like that. It's just like, these people are coming in because they're doing something cool musically. When you can do something like that musically, that's like, no, even if you like don't like rap at all, even if you think it's utter garbage, there's still something musically here that's really well thought out, really passionate, and really
If
fun.
you're like Kurt Hennig and the West Texas Rednecks, and you think rap is crap,
like that's the thing, right? It's like you can tell when people are having. There's a difference between trying too hard in the studio and like not having fun with it, and trying hard in the studio because you like getting exactly what you want, and you have like that's your fun. And to me, there are certain bands, certain groups that you can hear that side of the fun, and I think Run the Jewels is one of those. Like, they hone their craft to such a degree because they have fun doing it. They have fun being smart about it and doing it well, and that to me deserves respect. And it's just fun. It's a good album to just bump in your car and just dance like an idiot, and man, just Run the Jewels.
Yep.
Live at the Garden.
Live at the Garden. Also, freaking Kurt Hennig was from Minnesota, and he led the West Texas Rednecks. That's hilarious.
Also, side note, if I can fit this one in, there is a remix album of their second album, Run the Jewels 2, called Meow the Jewels.
Yeah, I have a funny story about Meow the Jewels. I guess if you're at your buddy's house and you play music around his cats that have cats fighting each other, it makes his cats fight each other. So I initiated cat combat by playing Meow the Jewels at my buddy's house. And it did not go over very well. So proceed with caution.
Proceed with caution, indeed. But do not proceed with caution into this album because it's a pretty fantastic album. It is worth your time. But let's talk about the main event of the evening. Let's get into our haiku reviews. Let's all read our haikus. Everybody ready? Is the whole class ready? Yeah. All right, let's start with Patrick. Patrick, what is your haiku?
Good modern hip hop with perfect production work, worthy of the hype.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what is your haiku?
A strong third release, the words of some skilled wordsmiths, a complete record.
Mm-hmm. My haiku. Talented MCs with great skill and things to say make a great album. Drew, what is your haiku?
A message in rap, and while I may not agree, have to show respect.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you Run the Jewels 3. You can, of course, check it out on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Play along at home. Follow along with us. We try to keep it updated as quick as possible. Though I am a little lazy sometimes, but it'll be there eventually. On that Spotify, well, no, on that not on that Spotify playlist. Unfortunately, it won't be my record. We might. So next week we might have a guest. Still trying to figure out. So maybe we'll figure it out. But if we don't, it'll be my record, which is it's going to be interesting to talk about this album. We're going to talk about Band-Maid, which is a Japanese rock band made up of all women who also dress up like maids, as in a maid cafe. Very cool band, very cool album. They have an interesting gimmick, but they also have some pretty good skills. So definitely worth checking out. But we're going to talk about that on that episode. But that is then, and this is now. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick is at The Swagger. Brett is at HIBBARD, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at XJuciferX. I'm at PD Rave. The show's at 4 Record Breakers. That's number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com is where our website is. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube. and the places. Follow us on subscribe, like, share, follow us in all the places. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.